Playing K-Man's greatest hits on gold with Brent Harbour. It is Wealth Wednesday, so again I'm chatting with Lewis from LOM. Morning, Lewis. How are you?
Oh, Brent, very good. Thank you for having me on again.
No worries. We're here at Wealth Wednesday. Now, it is bonus season, and it's probably a good time to think about your bonus this year and, what you should do with it. I mean, don't be like me and go, finally, I can put that down payment on that 100-inch TV. That's going to look so good in my lounge. But I think you got a better idea, right?
Invest it, Brent. But, before I get into that, you can treat yourself. It's bonus season. If you've seen that TV or whatever it is, you can treat yourself a little. You've worked hard for it, right? But once you've done that, it's important to work out what your investable capital is, okay? That is, the amount that you have left after your expenses. So if you have bills and debt to pay off, do so. Remember, debt is expensive when rates are high. So work out your financial position, work out your investable capital, and then start to put some to work, okay? Periodic top-ups on your investment portfolio can most certainly help boost it over the long run, over the long haul. And the power of compounding really does make a difference. So if you get annual bonuses, put them to work, put a little bit to work each year. And that will, by the time you come into retirement or want to buy a house, whatever it is, will make a profound impact over the long haul. Now, I know we spoke about compounding during the last radio session. So if anyone wants to hear more about that and how that works, I suggest they go on our website, lom.com, go to our insights page, and check out the last radio session that we done.
Look, I think with the bonus thing too, it is important to treat yourself. Otherwise, you think you've worked all year and it kind of disappears and you go, oh, well, what was all that for? Even though there's something at the end of it, right? But it's that immediate gratification, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I know a lot of friends I have, they like they're into their watches. So, you go and buy yourself a watch or whatever it is you want to go and do with it. But, look, it really, what I would say is treat yourself and then put capital to work that you're able to. But don't forget about paying down bills. Interest rates are very high at the minute. We'll talk a little bit more about interest rates later on, Brent. They could be coming down next year, so let's talk about that. But really, put money to work, let it grow over the long run. When your bonuses come through on an annual basis, it's a great time to get invested and plan for your financial future.
Okay, so what you're saying, I can tell my wife, is that it's okay for me to continue to buy my Star Wars bobbleheads.
Yeah, we can go with that, Brent. No problem.
Awesome, Lewis. Thanks for backing me up on that. So I'm going to take a bit of a break. In our next chat, I want to talk about festive season spending trends and the importance of understanding your financial position. It is Wealth Wednesday on Gold. I'm speaking with Lewis from LOM, and you can call them anytime on 233-0100 or pop in, grab a coffee, and have a chat in Commander Bay. Playing K-Man's greatest hits on gold with Brent Harbour. It is Wealth Wednesday, so again I'm chatting with Lewis from LOM. Lewis, I want to talk about festive spending. Now, at this time of year, you can overextend yourself, and to some extent there can be a little bit of guilt too that you want to do something really good for family and friends, but you really have to understand where you're at, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And, at the end of every year, it's always a good time to work out your financial position. As I said, when rates are high, debt is more expensive, and it's important not to overextend yourself, as you rightly identified, Brent. It's interesting to note, actually, that Christmas spending has nearly doubled more than when it was 20 years ago. So we've seen some pretty big increases. Now, that's partly inflation, just costs going up. You can't do the same thing that you always have done, especially if you're still earning a similar wage. So you need to review your financial position. You need to figure out your expenses at Christmas. And that goes back into what we spoke about in the previous segment about working at your financial position and what your investable capital is, so you can then go into 2024 and make the right investment decisions for yourself and your family.
So what about taking advantage of sales after Christmas, Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, look, if people want to go and, treat themselves rather than buy ahead of Christmas and spend, the full retail price, as it were, that's something people can look at. It's always nice to give, good presents at Christmas, mind you. So if my partner's listening, do not listen to what I just said. What's on my list this year. But, look, you do need to look at these things. It's been a very tough year for a lot of people with inflation running at, some very, very high levels here. But, as I said, and this is something we could talk about a little later on, Brent, interest rates are going to come down next year. There's a very, very good chance they're going to come down next year. So that should relieve a little bit of pressure for people. And, equally, Brent, if I may, in terms of the festive season, spending and trends there's also trends in the stock market we can talk about, Brent. So if you look at it in terms of, seasonal investment trends, you may have heard the term Santa Claus rally, okay? This is where the stock market rallies during the Christmas period. It doesn't happen every time. There isn't a lot of evidence to necessarily support it all the time, but any rally during this period is often referred to as Santa Claus rally. So reasons that you may have a so-called Santa Claus rally can be down to seasonal optimism around Christmas, end-of-year bonuses, as we discussed, as people look to put those to work in the market. And a lot of people take a lot of time off around Christmas, so there may be less sellers in the market as people not necessarily are active in their portfolios. So that can all play into an end-of-year rally, a Santa Claus rally. So this is something that a lot of people speak to us about that they've seen on the news and wondering, what is a Santa Claus rally? So I think that's interesting market knowledge.
What we've talked about before too on Wealth Wednesday is planning is the key for all this in the festive season, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really important to plan. I mean, and again, you look at next year, what are you going to do for next year? How can you plan for 2024? In terms of the market, I think, we've had a big run in November and we started to move sideways over the last couple of weeks. So could we get that run going into January? And that Santa Claus rally is certainly possible. Much depends on the economic data that's going to come out and what the Fed say in regards to interest rates, that we'll talk about in a little bit. But planning for the future is obviously key, and doing that end of year is a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great, Lewis. Now, in our next chat after 9, I want to talk about how people can plan financially for 2024 and some specific things to look out for. So I'm chatting with Lewis from LOM. You can call them anytime on 233 0100, or even better, pop in and see them, grab a coffee and have a chat in Camana Bay. K-Man's greatest hits, they continue next on Gold. Playing K-Man's greatest hits on Gold with Brent Harbour. It is Wealth Wednesday, so again I'm chatting with Lewis from LOM. Lewis, how can people plan for 2024?
Well, everyone, usually end of every year does their New Year's resolutions. I know, mine is to start, go for morning jogs, or whether yours is getting down the gym or whatever it is. I think it's a good place to start, and you should most certainly make one of your New Year's resolutions about investing. Start the year as you mean to go on. Your financial security is important, and putting your money to work is a good idea. And something else that you can supplement into that, Brent, is actually to look back, review your 2023 goals. What did you achieve and what you can improve on? It's always good to look back in order to find a path forward, I find. So you find things that you could do, even if they're small things that you can improve on, add up. So small incremental changes can compound to have a larger, impact, right? Not only in investing, but also, in your life as well. So I find that's quite an interesting little tool for myself. Potential rate cuts, Brent. If you have a look last year when interest rates went so high, people's mortgages and, whether it's car loans or whatever it is, everyone really felt the pinch, as it were. But I think rates are going to start coming down next year. So there's a few things investors should do, okay? If you desire income, so you're approaching retirement or you're in retirement and want to generate income, then taking advantage of the high yields we have now and locking them in now over the next 1, 3, 5, 10 years is prudent. Once interest rates start going down, securing high income becomes more difficult and potentially more risky, okay? Now, some strategists believe that rate cuts can come as early as March, this coming March 2024. Now, that might be a little early, but rate cuts at some stage next year are expected. For example, there was a Forbes article I was reading the other day, and it outlined that the CME's FedWatch tool currently gives a 90% chance that interest rate cuts occur no later than May 2024, with a possibility of 60% of a cut in March. So we're very much towards the end of the Fed cycle now, and it looks like we could be going into a cut cycle in the near future. So if you do want income, you need to lock in your yields, I think now, or at some stage early next year. It's hard to predict when. And I think it's actually very important to note, having said all of that the Fed still think it's too early to start talking about rate cuts. So the Fed have been very clear that they're not even talking about it yet. This is just what strategists and analysts are thinking at the minute. Everyone gives their predictions. So there seems to be a growing consensus that rate cuts are going to come sooner rather than later now. So it's just something for people to keep in mind. No one has a crystal ball. No one knows for sure what's going to happen. Much it depends on the economic data, the inflation data that the Federal Reserve see.
Lewis, are rate cuts good for the market?
Well, a rate cut environment is usually good news for the stock market, yes. But much depends on why the Fed are cutting rates. Okay, you need to ask yourself why rates are going down. Have we had a really bad recession? Because that was obviously not good news. Okay, but if, for example, they're cutting rates because they've achieved a soft landing and they've won the battle with inflation, then that's obviously good news for the wider market. It means that the economy is steady, inflation's come down, and they can start to bring down the interest rates, which will leave pressure on, mortgage loans. Obviously, money becomes cheaper if you've got smaller interest rates. Money's cheaper, and that sort of environment tends to very much favor the stock market, buying equities. Yes, but just as one point there, there's many different things to consider when buying stocks. You've got to make sure you have the right time horizon. You should only really be buying equities, stocks, shares if you have at least a 3 to 5 year horizon time frame in the market, and you should do so in a diversified manner. And by all means, seek professional advice. Come and have a consultation. We offer free consultations, so come in, speak with us, or speak to one of the other advisors at one of the banks in Cayman. You should speak to a professional. But our consultations are free. We're based in Camana Bay. And we're happy to help if we can.
And you guys make a good coffee too, right?
We make a good coffee, or, I think our investment advice is better than the coffee, having said that. But really, it's about making investors aware of the risks, making sure they have the right time horizon and realistic goals in place. That's where we can really help advise and help manage for individuals.
Yeah, it is about being armed with all that information before you make a decision, right?
Absolutely. You need to have the right tools at your disposal in order to make an informed decision, Brent.
Now, Daisy, you've got some events planned for next year, haven't you?
Yes. So we're just finalizing the details for our first LOM event of 2024. We're going to be hosting a wine tasting towards the end of January. We don't have an exact date for you yet, but this is a chance where you can meet our advisors, you can learn more about our services and what we can offer you, and have a conversation about the markets with our very knowledgeable advisors here. So it's a more intimate event. Spaces are limited, but if you're interested, the best way would be to follow our socials. So Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. We will post more information about it there in the future, probably towards the end of this month, start of January, and that's where you can find out more information.
And Lewis, finally, can you give us all the contact details to chat to all you at LOM?
Yes, indeed, Brent. You can contact us on local number 233-0100. You can pop into our office in Camana Bay, or you can go on our website, lom.com. We have various social media pages on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook as well. You can also email us, info@lom.com, if you prefer emailing us instead of picking up the phone and calling.